Welcome to Remember Me by Intervivos, the show about living life to its fullest, leaving a legacy, and deciding how you will be remembered. And now, your humble team of expert planners taking the legal world by storm.
Welcome to Remember Me. I'm Glenn Wagstaff. I'm here in the studio with Mike Black, and we have a special guest with us today, all the way from Arizona. So as we get started, for those of you who plugged in with us last week, we were talking about planned giving and giving to charities, and why that might be something that you would consider as part of an overall estate plan and part of your legacy that you want to leave. And so we've actually invited another expert to be on with us today, who works with the Red Cross, which is, of course, a well-known, well-established, very philanthropic organization, and most of our listeners have probably heard of it. So, Tim, this is Tim Heileman, and tell us a little bit about your role with the Red Cross, and how did you decide to kind of get into this field, and just introduce us a little bit to yourself.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, Glenn. And it's a pleasure to be on the show with you here. Yeah. So I'm what's called a gift planning officer, specific to, as you're talking about, gift planning. Before I joined with the Red Cross, I was an estate planning attorney, practicing in Arizona. And, while I was in practice, I actually got involved in several nonprofit organizations, was on a couple of boards and what are called plan giving advisory committees, and really just started to fall in love with the work that they were all doing in the field of plan giving, and didn't know officially I'd kind of change hats and switch roles. But when the opportunity came along, it's been a wonderful fit for me, and it allows me to use the skills I developed in law to actually accomplish, I think, more good and do good by it. So it's been great.
Awesome. So Tim, we've talked about this for the last couple of weeks a little bit, but from your perspective, what is planned giving exactly, and why would somebody want to do it? Absolutely, yeah. Planned giving is a powerful kind of means of supporting charities that you love and care about. Obviously, people are able to make what we call current dollar gifts, just donations to organizations. But a planned gift is usually when you're looking to the future and you're looking to utilize quite often estate planning tools, be it a will or a trust or even unique types of trust and other types of annuities and the like, to be able to make a commitment now to make a gift later. And quite often it's a powerful tool, be it for tax purposes, to be able to receive tax benefits now while making a gift in the future. It's also, a lot of times we talk about when you're making a current dollar gift, people tend to be thinking of, their stream of income, what money is available to them now, and that feels limited. But quite often, with the things we've saved and the various instruments we use to consider our long-term financial planning, when you're considering a planned gift, you tend to be looking at those, I'll call them reservoirs, that you've built up your assets in. And so it's not uncommon that people will make relatively modest gifts throughout life to organizations they support. And then their most substantial, at least financially substantial gift is their planned gift because of the various assets they're looking to use and the big impact they can have with those. So I'm having deja vu from the last couple of weeks because we've talked about this a couple of times, but I think that's perfect. Mike was sharing with us before the show that he's a big donor of the Red Cross, but not necessarily in the form of dollars. Right.
I don't think I get a tax deduction for my donation.
Well, tell us about it.
Well, I've been donating to the Red Cross. I give blood, and I took a blood test one time and I got an A+ on the test. So they like that blood, and it's something I feel like I like to do, and I do it because I feel like that's the service I can render, and it's not dollars. But it is time and effort, But it's something that makes me feel good, too, because I know, they give me T-shirts every once in a while, and it says Lifesaver on them. And also, they send me emails saying that, my blood's gone to so-and-so, or it's gone someplace that it's actually been a benefit. So, that's another way that I guess I plan to donate, but it's not, I don't plan a certain time every cycle to donate. It's just when they need it, or when I think about donate. But every time they ask me, I'm ready, willing, and able to do it.
So giving's in your blood.
Giving's in my blood, so yes.
A lot of times we think that, our charitable giving has to be in the form of money, but it can come in a lot of different forms. And that's part of what we get to, in planned giving, is that it can come in the form of other assets. It can come in the form of future gifts. Sometimes a lot of charitable works and the causes that we believe in, if we didn't have, life support kits, or if we didn't have, personal hygiene products, or if we didn't have food and water to be able to distribute to where the need is, then, the good wouldn't be able to be done either, right? And blood is a huge need out there when the Red Cross facilitates. Right.
I was, the Red Cross came and helped us. I live in Salem, and we were evacuated. We weren't evacuated, but a lot of my friends and neighbors were actually evacuated because of the fires last year. The Red Cross came and helped, and then, Salem and Spanish Fork and Payson took over, so the Red Cross was able to come and kind of make sure that everything was established. But it is, and we were able to give things, and, it was amazing to see what people gave. They were giving the firefighters food. They were giving them, one time they asked them for baby wipes. And it's like they had a pallet full, couple of pallets of baby wipes instantaneously because of the way things were out there. And just whatever they needed, we were able to give.
So, a lot of times when we just give money and we give an immediate donation, we don't see what happens with it, and we forget about it, and then it's gone, right? But that's one of the big advantages of planned giving is that it's not just something you do once and forget about. It becomes part of the legacy that you're leaving. So, Tim, tell us about some of the strategies of maybe, future gifts that you've seen people do, and maybe not just, gifts of money, but, that ways that people can plan to be able to contribute to causes like the Red Cross.
Absolutely. It's interesting because most of the time when I'm thinking about planned giving, I'm not thinking about cash, and nowadays when people are kind of thinking of their financial planning and perhaps wanting to support charity, a major opportunity, I guess a problem that giving to charity solves is capital gains, issues. For most people, they're not as concerned now with the estate tax. Maybe they just don't reach the thresholds where that's relevant to them. But capital gains taxation is relevant to most of us. And so making a future planned gift, perhaps of stock that's appreciated, or real estate, are various ways that, assets that have grown in value, donating them allows you to avoid that type of taxation is a powerful tool, or frankly, businesses. A business itself that's grown over time, you can avoid a lot of tax issues by carving out sometimes a portion of your business that's structured the right way, but nonetheless being able to give to charity solves a lot of real problems. And yet, as we've been talking about, also accomplishes a lot of good. So there's a whole other side to it than just simply the tax ramifications, but the impact that you're able to have.
So there's some awesome strategies and stories, and maybe we'll get to about this type of planning. But one of the things I'm curious about that maybe you could share with all of our listeners is when you give, let's say, an interest in a company or stocks or real estate, I guess that would be a big one, or even a car or whatnot to a charity. What does a big organization like the Red Cross do with those assets after? Because it's not like they're going to use the house, but what do they do with it?
Yeah, that's a question I had on those, because when we were talking about that, those were the exact questions I had.
Yeah. Well, when it comes to real estate and really any type of unique asset, any charity is going to have some procedures and process where they're going to really take a close look at the asset, make sure it's a marketable asset. Because yes, of course, unless there's some very specific reason that they could use, a piece of real estate, more often than not, by far more often than not, they're going to be looking to liquidate that asset
converted into cash to then be able to deliver on a specific mission of the organization.
Perfect. So, we were talking about the example before the show of somebody who maybe, has a home that they would like to leave for charitable purposes, but they don't want to leave it today because they want to keep living in it and they plan on living in it, for the rest of their life. Is there a way to be able to, do that sort of planning?
Absolutely. Yeah, there is. You're able to, essentially it's like a contract where you're creating what's called a life estate, in the real estate, so that you retain a life estate, the ability for you to live in the property throughout the rest of your life, but then with an agreement, that at the end you intend for that asset to go to an organization you support. You're able to get a lot of the tax benefits now and then still be able to live in the house, meet your needs and theirs.
We'll be back in just a second on Remember Me. We're talking with Tim from the Red Cross. We'll be back in just a second. Welcome back to Remember Me. I'm Glenn Wagstaff, and this show's sponsored by Intervivo's Estate Planning Solutions. Today we're talking about charitable giving and charitable planning. We have a special guest with us today from the Red Cross, who's in their planned giving department, Timothy Heileman. And we're talking about, before the break, we were just talking about, alternative assets that that you can give as a gift rather than just giving money, that there's a way to be able to give future gifts, and oftentimes it comes in the form of property or stocks or those sort of things that you can avoid capital gains taxes by engaging in planned giving. So Tim, during the break we were just talking a little bit about the idea of perpetual giving, of giving, on a regular basis, on an ongoing basis, and why that might be a good thing. And you mentioned a strategy, a concept, using annuities. Can you explain it a little bit?
Yeah, you bet. So, a charitable gift annuity, it's a powerful instrument because it creates a stream of income for you throughout your life. That of course is like a type of guarantee of a return. And, so with the Red Cross, we rely on what's called the American Council on Gift Annuities, who sets rates, for organizations all around the country. But, basically the way it would work, and it's just did this 2 weeks ago with a donor, who, she wanted to create a stream of income for herself that would be fixed through the rest of her life. So she was able to take, a portion of her assets. She had her advisor present, that told her how much would be an appropriate amount for her, to put into this annuity that paid out, I believe for her, around 8%. And that would be, each year, but it'd be paid to her quarterly through the rest of her life. And then whatever amount would remain at the end of her life will then go to the American Red Cross. And what's great is, so she creates a stream of income for herself. She knows she's going to be supporting an organization she loves at the end of her life. And she gets a tax deduction now, valued at the amount that's anticipated will go to the Red Cross in the end. She was so happy. It was actually her second time doing with the Red Cross, and had so much peace about it. Just felt great to know that it was all in place and that a certain amount would be coming to her for the rest of her life. It's a wonderful tool.
And, one of the things that comes up sometimes is the idea of if you have qualified funds, if you have an IRA or 401k, at a certain age, you have to pull out that money, at least part of it every year, and you have to realize taxes as you pull it out as income. But setting up, a charitable giving from year to year, maybe the opposite of what you just described, instead of, you receiving the income stream, what if you were, giving to charity every single year? That's a way to reduce your income and save money on that taxes. Have you seen that also?
Yeah, we see that, every year. Usually near the end of the year, we get a large number of what are called charitable rollovers, So absolutely, just as you said, 70 and a half people have to start taking their required minimum distribution. And not everyone necessarily needs that distribution, but the law requires them to take it. And so, yeah, they choose, rather than giving dollars that have already been taxed, to support their organizations, they give dollars that never were taxed. and by giving it, never get taxed. Key kind of principle there is you have to communicate with your, IRA or your 401k administrator to make sure that you don't receive those assets before you give to the organization. It has to come directly from the administrator to the organization so that you don't receive them, right? But absolutely, yeah, that's one way people can give on an annual basis in a way that saves them, again, on taxes that perhaps an income they don't need. But with that, it crossed my mind that that's one form of giving that fits. The idea of giving qualified assets is such a simple way to give. And I just thought I'd highlight a few other ways that are so simple, because sometimes I think people, when they think of charitable giving, and especially in estate gifts, they're like, oh, I have to go to, my attorney again. Maybe that'll cost me a little bit. I'd rather not do that. So for instance, people giving, from just a bank account on a pay on death or transfer on death beneficiary designation, or life insurance, that's a beneficiary designation. And as we were just talking about, some qualified assets, IRA, 401k, you can name a charity as a beneficiary on that plan. And it's so simple. It's so easy to do that we found a lot of people, if we mention that as an option, they're like, oh, yeah, I'd love to do that, because it's just so simple. And if it's a qualified asset, then yet again, an asset that never was taxed. And if you give to a charity, it never gets taxed. It's a powerful opportunity.
So, some of these strategies, they're really simple to implement. And sometimes because of the simplicity to implement it, they're almost underwhelming. But for somebody who wants to be more involved in the giving or in the way that the funds are used in the future, we were talking a little bit about donor advised funds and some other strategies like that. What are some of the ways that people can be more involved in the giving process so that they get more fulfillment from the legacy that they're leaving of charitable gifts?
Yeah, the way we look at it, at least at the Red Cross, I know other organizations too, as I've talked to different gift funding officers, when someone makes a commitment to leave a planned gift to an organization, we look at it as you're treating us like family. So our goal is to be able to treat you like family as well. And so you're now invested in this organization in a unique way that, get involved. Whether volunteering as a more typical person would volunteer in an organization, or, to be willing to communicate with someone like myself, a gift planning officer, to talk about, how you would like to your gift used. And especially because the language used to create a planned gift often has significant impact on how the gift will be used. And I know that's true with the Red Cross, whether you want your gift to be used in a certain geographical location, the state of Utah, or in a certain region or nationally, and also if you would like it for a certain program. The Red Cross actually has 5, distinct major programs, and you can kind of identify which of those you'd like to be focused on. So again, just be communicate with the organization, get involved. The organizations would love for you to do that.
So I always think of, during Christmas time, you see the Salvation Army in front of the grocery stores and stuff. And, if you drop in $100 bill there, that might help, for the season, and might help the cause. But then you don't know what's going on an ongoing basis. You're just not connected to, the actual organization and the cause at all. But for those who, become part of this, family that you're describing, right, as part of the organization, and, part of that is being able to kind of get updates on what's going on and how, what kind of good is being perpetuated in the world. And I think that's why we give in the first place, is really to, help to promote good out there and to be connected to that. Tell us about some of the ways that the Red Cross connects with their donors on a regular basis to kind of promote that community.
Great. What was your last question? No, I'm sorry, I couldn't quite hear you.
Yeah. So, what are some of the ways that that the Red Cross connects with donors to perpetuate that community and to be able to make that feeling of family that you described?
Yeah. So, one really thing to know with the Red Cross is we're approximately 95% volunteer driven. So most of the work we do is done by volunteers, and the the needs are diverse and in a sense endless when it comes to ways that you can get involved volunteering. And that really would be, among people who feel connected to the organization, I think volunteers feel the most connected. Another way that I know with me, people that I interact with regularly, they're reaching out to get updates on maybe a major disaster that's happened and ways that we're getting involved. Even just sitting down and going through, we do have reports that come up usually annually on any kind of major events and the impact of the work that we're doing. So just seek information, be willing to be contacted and make contact.
Thanks for joining us, Tim. We're out of time, so we're going to go ahead and wrap up. But thanks for joining us on Remember Me, and we'll see you next week.